As you may have seen in my films, I've been a long time advocate of the Topeak Tetrarack because my mountain bike, this one here, didn't have any pannier mounts on it. I go bikepacking all over the world, I take my camping gear and all my filming equipment, so by running the Tetraracks, it allowed me to take even more stuff than if I was just using bikepacking bags. So they've been really good for that. However, I do still use them, but there are a few things you need to be aware of if you are looking at purchasing these. So we're going to run through that today. So what are the Tetraracks? The Tetraracks are basically clamp-on pannier racks, and you can get two versions, one for the forks that I've got here and one for the rear chainstays. You don't need any pannier mounts to fit these. You fit them onto your forks or your chainstays using these 4 clamps that you basically wrap onto the forks or the chainstays using a reinforced Velcro strap. You tighten them as much as you can, and then there's an Allen key which basically screws them into place so it stops them from coming loose. That's the theory anyway. I say they do 2 versions, there's actually loads of versions, but they're all dependent on the bike that you've got. Because I've got a pretty chunky mountain bike, I've gone for the fatter of the versions, but you can also get road versions. So if you've got really skinny forks or skinny chainstays, those would be the ones that you go for. But the premise is the same, they attach the same way and they have the same mounting system. So are these racks any good? They have been a great solution to the problem I had with this bike, not having any pannier mounts. And I continued to use the front rack in particular on my Sonda Frontier, which has pannier rack mounts on the back, but because I have suspension forks, it gave me that option of having a little bit more carrying space without having to add any additional mounts. The great thing about the Tetraracks is they are a very simple solution to a pretty irritating problem for most people. They also come with the Topeak MTX Quick Track, which allows you to use the pannier bags that I use here. With just a click of a button, you can pull the whole thing off, which is really, really simple. You can attach normal panniers and other bags onto here with straps as well, but if you have Topeak pannier bags, this is a really good idea. Another great advantage of running the Tetrarack is that you can pretty much fit it to any bike. As long as you get the correct version for your bike, like the road or the mountain bike version, it's pretty likely that it will fit. You can also fit it to front suspension as well, like I have done on my Frontier, meaning that you can take more stuff even if you've got a mountain bike with some pretty hefty forks. So what are the drawbacks? There is mainly one from experience, and it's the weight limit. When you actually look at Topeak's website, it says for the front rack you get 10 kilograms and for the rear you get 12. That's the max weight limit. But in reality, I've found that it's very difficult to get to that limit. You might find that you don't take anywhere near as much as that, which is fine. But even when you're starting to creep up to that limit, because they're only held on by being clamped onto the frame with like a rubber Velcro strap, it's very difficult to keep them in that exact position you put them on for a long period of time, especially if you're going on rocky and jarring terrain. It starts to slowly move the rack, and the nature of forks is that they're tapered, so at the top they tend to be wider than they are at the bottom. So if they start to slip down, that diameter of the strap is the same obviously as it was before, but because it's clamping on something that's narrower, it starts to slip down even more, and it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. It ends up going down and down and down until it eventually starts rubbing on your tyre. Another slight drawback is the price. Now, they're not super expensive, but compared to a traditional pannier rack, which maybe costs 30–40 pounds, this is going to set you back much more than that. The front one is 75 to 80 pounds and the rear one tips the scale at just over 100 pounds, which isn't cheap. However, if you have a bike without pannier mounts, there are a lot of options on the market now, and most of them are in that price range or significantly more, like the tail fin option for example. If you're only using a few kilograms, this is absolutely fine, but for me, with all my camping gear and my filming gear, it was a bit of a nuisance. If it was so annoying, why do I still use the front rack? I actually have some tail fin fork suspension mounts that I've clamped underneath the Tetrarack on the front of my Frontier, and that's basically added an extra level of grip to stop them from sliding down any further. And if you're wanting to do that as an option, that is a really good idea. You basically reinforce the Tetrarack and you can put some cage mounts or bottle cages on your forks as well. So should you buy these racks? I can personally recommend the front rack very highly. I've been using that for a very long time, and it's a great option if you have a mountain bike or a bike without any fork mounts. That's a really good option, and I think given that most traditional touring bikes or gravel bikes can fit pannier racks to the back, if you're wanting to carry more stuff, that front rack is just a nice addition to have. If, however, you like to do a lot of long distance heavyweight bikepacking on all terrain on a mountain bike, I would probably consider looking at different options. They're just not a reliable long-term solution. Any questions about these racks, stick them in the comments. I'd love to hear from you. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.